This is coffee number 5. I'm your host, Lara Schmoisman. Hi, you guys. Welcome back to coffee number 5. My coffee's ready and I'm ready for this conversation. So if you're a brand, you want to stay tuned and wait for this talk because we're going to be talking about all those questions that you always had about retail and you never knew who to ask. So I want to introduce you to my good friend, Sarah. Hi,
Hello.
welcome. And Sarah has a very long trajectory. I mean, you've been featured everywhere. You've been working in the beauty industry for a long time. We're not gonna age ourselves here, but
We're forever young.
yes. And well, being in the beauty industry, we have to. We
Absolutely.
need to look the part a little. But also, Sarah, that's something that is super interesting to me. And I want to ask all these questions. So, what's a better place to do all these questions than in my podcast and to share it with you? So, Sarah, you are a category builder. You call yourself
Yes.
a category builder. What's a category builder?
A category builder, I think, is we're a brand advocate. So we work with all kinds of brands. But as I was mentioning to you, it's really hard for a brand to come in and say, hey, we want to make the next big brand in mature skin, or we want to make the next big brand of textured hair, because it really requires like an ecosystem that is going
Mm-hmm.
to uplift and enable that brand to succeed. And so we work on multiple fronts. So we definitely work with retailers to understand new categories and how that category should be presented in their stores, on their .com, and making sure that they're really serving all of their consumer base. And we also, leverage events and campaigns to build excitement and virality around every category. So I'm currently having a 360 moment because, as I mentioned to you, when landing first started, we launched the first wave of KBeauty. We launched over 80 Korean beauty brands in retail.
Mm-hmm.
I've been known to be, not to age ourselves, but I have been known to be the godmother of KBeauty. um,
That's not a bad name to have.
Yes. And I like that because I'm passionate about helping entrepreneurs succeed. And I think being an entrepreneur myself, I understand a brand founder and what they're facing. And so yeah, we build categories. And we're currently in the second wave of K Beauty, where actually retailers had taken a step back from this category, but TikTok, Amazon, the consumers are saying they really want products and innovation from Korea. And I think in 2025, you're going to see an explosion of K Beauty. It's traditionally been thought of just skincare, but I think it's going to touch color, it's going to touch body, it's going to touch hair, it's going to touch fragrance, and
That's
so we're
so
super excited.
that that's so exciting. And you guys, when you talk to me or you listen to me, and when I know that I say the word omnichannel a little too much, but it's really important. It's
It
really
is.
important for brand awareness and for early stage brands or even middle stage brands.
Mhm.
I talk to a lot of brands as a marketing agency when I set the foundation for the brand. And I
Yeah.
always talk about this is like putting a billboard on the street. You need
Hmm.
people to pass and to see your brand. You need to get
Hmm.
that brand awareness. You need to be in TikTok. You need to be in Instagram.
Yeah.
You need to have a strong website. You need to have an organic volume of people finding you, but also need to have a budget for ads. But,
Absolutely.
but at the same time, you need to have a clear, be very clear what your brand is
Hmm.
because going to retail is a completely different story than
Yes.
starting DTC. Your commitments are going to be different. And I mean, the monies that you're going to have to put out there are different. So are you
Yeah.
prepared for all that? So Sarah, what does it take for a brand to be ready to go retail?
I think, I mean, all of what you said, I think building a community around your brand, whether it's online, through your email, that's important because today retailers are looking at brands and saying, how can this brand help me bring in more customers? So it used to be, okay, it's like if you build it, they will come, right? Like as long as I put my product on a shelf, I'm going to
Yeah.
be a success. But it's really flipped, right? Because brands are, can be even better than retailers at increasing their share of voice. And so I think every brand should look at a retailer and think first and foremost, not let me try to convince this retailer how great my brand is,
Mhm.
but let me try to communicate to the retailer how I'm going to help them grow their business through the types of people that my brand resonates with. And I think it's a completely different mindset of how we're used to approaching things.
Yeah, and
And
also because it's all right now for me, it's all about the social proof and connecting
yes.
with your community and building that community. Even I can see that people are getting a little tired of influencers. They don't trust
Mhm.
those influencers as much as they used to.
Yes.
The public and the customer is learns learned how to read through the lines.
Yes. And I think that customers, they're so savvy,
Yes.
right? Someone asked me recently, what is the best advice I could give to a brand? And I would say you have to work really hard to earn your place on a customer shelf.
Yep.
And not because they're smart, they know what works for them, they know what they like, and their dollars are precious. And so make sure you are providing that value and you are consistently, in conversation with them, which is where I think it goes back to the virality. And retail, it is a completely different game, right? Because retail, you don't have all the space and time to communicate your value as you would on TikTok, as you would on a website. And I think packaging then becomes super important. It's like you need to like sell within 5 seconds, draw them in. Your brand has to tell a story with how it's placed. I think that's something that brands don't necessarily think about because they're used to selling their products, in their own .com or D2C channels, as you mentioned. And then really understanding the levers within that retailer, and each retailer is different of what they can do to elevate their brand within that space. And that's a completely different, also like economics, as you mentioned. And a lot of brands go into it not understanding the commitments that it will take and that it's not an overnight thing. I would say it probably takes a good 5 years for most brands to build a profitable business within a retailer.
Let me ask you a question because this is something that I've been trying to educate myself more too, to be able to help my brands and my clients. I will say, because when you go to retail, there are so many factors. There's going to be marketing
Mhm.
commitments that you have with retail. You're going
Mhm.
to have also, you need to educate, and that's something that I try to help from the marketing side.
Yeah.
You need to educate the people who are actually going to be selling your products, but
Yes.
also you need to create events the in the places that you sell your products.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that retail, you have so many audiences, right? Because as you said, you have the consumer, but you also have the in-store associates and the managers, and they're your biggest advocates. So as you know, we have a education app called Beauty Fluent, and it's designed to enable sales associates to sell better and to represent your brand better. And another
So
audience.
what do you do to educate those people?
So we try to make it easy for them, right? Because you have 5 seconds. A customer asks you, "Hey, tell me about this product." Our app, you can barcode scan a product, and it tells you how do you demo this? What are the key ingredients? What are the benefits? What is this a dupe of? How do you use this in a kind of cool what's a hack for it? And we also have partnerships with companies like Clear for Me. So you can click on an ingredient and you can explain to the customer, this is what this ingredient does. And we have a partnership with Match My Makeup, which has become one of like our biggest features. And you put in the foundation shade that you currently use and the brand you use, and then it gives you a recommendation of the shade that you would be in a new line. Because I mean, sales associates are required to or expected to know so much, right? They're like
Yeah.
expected to be experts in what's vegan, what's good for my skin type, color match me, what's good for my hair. And we really see Beautiful as a way to help them do their job better. And then going back to what you said about like even eventing, it's about creating excitement around your brand. We just did a series of activations for one of our brands, CosRX, and when you go in with an event and activation and you help co-sell on the floor, then that store manager starts to feel like, okay, this brand is supporting me. This brand is helping me to do my job better,
Absolutely.
increase sales. And now we have a loyal store manager. We have a team that's excited about um, explaining who this brand is and really like recommending it in the proper way. So I think that's also important. And then in-store marketing, every retailer has different channels, like whether it's email, whether it's promotions, whether it's sampling programs, and you really have to be aggressive about it as soon as you get in. Because I think a big mistake that a lot of brands make is they kind of sit back and say, okay, I'm going to let the retailer tell me what I should do. And by the time that comes around, your productivity on shelf may already be, tanking and, it's raising a red flag because I think the worst scenario is not ever getting into retail. It's getting exited. So
Yeah.
I think that's you're planning day one, you're planning, minus, 50 days of how you're gonna increase sell through once you're on shelf.
Do you do you recommend people to go and try directly for Sephora or Ultra, or you start with smaller just to get a little more proof of concept?
I think it depends on the brand. There are some, as I mentioned, like KBeauty brands that have built tremendous virality on TikTok and are, like the number one, serum on Amazon, the number one, eye treatment. And then I think, okay, you've created some groundswell around your product and your brand. And so maybe the first step can be a larger retailer like a Sephora and Ulta. But I think if you're just starting out, finding and connecting with your community is it's easier at smaller locations where because sometimes and Laura, like I'm not sure if you've faced this, like you have an idea of what your brand is and
Yeah.
who you want it to be, but sometimes the customer tells you no, it's something different.
Exactly. That we see it
Yes.
all the time. We see it all the time with our clients, and that's why you need to do a lot of error test and
Yes.
really be open to make mistakes at the beginning.
Absolutely. And I think that's why if you start in a smaller retailer where you have a good relationship, you can see, okay, what are the benefits that really resonate with the customer? What are the promotions that's right for my brand? And we have a lot of brands that launch on, um, online only retailers first because you get more time and space to explain your story.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of services out there that they offer that they're gonna create retail in-store experiences. How do you
Hmm.
feel about those services? Because they're expensive
Hmm.
for brands.
I think it definitely should be a part of the mix. When I think is when you do it is important because it is expensive, and so you may not get the ROI on day one
Hmm.
if you're doing in-store eventing and activations. But I definitely feel like it's necessary
Hmm.
because as I kind of going back to retailers want you to be driving traffic and converting their customers when you're in store. And activations are a great way for you to partner with retailers to like, okay, let's target your top 25 doors and let's make sure that our brand is meeting its productivity goals. Let's, create exciting experiences for your customers when they come into doors. So I would kind of see it that way. This is a service that you can do in partnership with a retailer, rather than, you know, day one, it's going to result in, tremendous sales for you.
Okay, that's really important to know, and it's also it's understand that you always have to have seeding money and a budget for these things. It's not gonna be for free, and it's not, and you should be a little concerned about if you are a success overnight, because then you might not
Yeah.
have inventory.
Hmm.
It's many times steady. It's better
Yeah,
than rush because as
it is.
it's really concerning when and actually, for example, in Amazon, if you are out of stock, Amazon actually you lose ranking.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
You need to make sure that you have all these operation parts in place.
Hmm. And
So
I think sometimes we'll say, obviously every brand's dream is to get a, a dedicated section or an end cap. But I would say you have to be really confident. You have to have a lot of money to market and make sure that you're earning that space. And I think sometimes for brands, it's better to like, hey, let's get 5 products. Let's identify your hero SKU and let's start building sales
mhm.
around the products first rather than spending a lot of money for fixturing and for, your own space where no one else can help you. Um, and so I definitely feel like there have been cases where brands have taken on a bit more than they
And
could
they work at
chew.
you, yes.
Yeah, because it's like, hey, if you had only had maybe 25% of your assortment, then 80% of your sales is coming from 2 products. It would have been a lot better than now you're taking up 2 shelves and
But also there is a whole thing about shelf life and
Mhm.
cost of manufacturing, which is
Yeah.
really high. So you need, as a brand, to be able to negotiate all your costs, to be able to switch some of that monies to have it for retail and be retail ready.
Yes. Yeah. Because also, quite frankly, the margins are slimmer when you
Yeah,
go into retail.
a
It's
lot slimmer. I
yes.
have a question for you.
Mhm.
Let's debunk some myth here
Oh.
because, yeah, because like I hear for so many brands, and I'm gonna tell you what I think later, or you
Hmm.
might know already, but it's going into Amazon a good idea or a bad idea for a brand, or going online in other retailers?
Um, I think it's a good idea. I think you need to be smart about it because too many brands are going on Amazon and the worst case situation is like no one buys your product. But actually, a really bad situation is your price integrity and your brand integrity is hurt by resellers or other people buying your.
Absolutely. Thank you
Yes.
for that. Actually, I think that there are a lot of consumers out there that they just buy in Amazon nowadays. And
Hmm.
also because of locations. They're in some
Yeah.
places that they don't have the access to the stores that
Yes.
they want to have these products. And they do have a Prime account and they want to have their products and not pay for shipping and get it fast.
It almost, I mean, to me, Amazon has become like, is this brand a legitimate brand? Is it available on Amazon? So I do think that you need to own your presence there, but I also think you have to gate it very well because, we have brands that have become extremely successful on Amazon and now they're dealing with undercutting. Like they can't get that buy box because other people are undercutting them.
Well, I seen that a lot happening, and I
Mhm.
see that it happened for two reasons. First of all, they wholesale their brands to people that they're selling Amazon.
Yeah.
And second, they were too late in Amazon. So
Hmm.
you have people, there are people in Amazon that they're looking for these brands that they're not in
Yeah.
Amazon and take place. So to me, early on, you need to be in Amazon. You can always control the narrative, and I will not have, except Prime Day, probably a lower price on Amazon than in your website.
Yes.
But you need to control the narrative. I mean, controlling the narrative is who you let sell your products.
Yes. I think it's hard. I mean, going back to like our KBeauty brand, it's hard because they're already in different markets.
Yeah.
And so it's a bit harder to control who gets a hold of these products. And then another issue that I did want to mention is counterfeiting. So
Yeah.
that's become a huge issue where, consumers are very wary of like, especially with like if it's a higher price point, if this is a real product, if it's genuine. And I think that's where retailers can help because they provide that level of guarantee that this is an authentic product. We're getting it from the brand.
Yeah.
Because I've heard brands say like the counterfeits are so good, they
They
don't even,
are.
they can't even tell themselves.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
are. But
So
then when
it's,
you try the products, the quality is not the same.
yes, and it's all watered down. So I think there's a lot of things to be careful about.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's also talk about when we talk about like how important is for a brand to have PR? Because I've seen a lot of brands out there, or they coming to us and say, I want
Mm-hmm.
PR, and realize, and I'm with me, you get what you see. And
Mm-hmm.
it's you're not ready for PR. Your
Mm-hmm.
ecosystem is not in place. PR, it is a lot of work and
Yeah.
it's not cheap for a brand. How much you think PR helps a brand get into retail? Because that's another myth that if you have good PR, you're gonna
Mhm.
get into retail faster.
Um, I think it can help because you're showing that editors like your product if they're covering it, but I don't think it helps you succeed in retail, right? Like I think you can write, you can have amazing press, but when that customer is in store, what is going to make them buy is not, an article that was written about you. What is going to make them buy is an associate recommending it, packaging that just sells itself.
Hmm.
And so I think PR too, and you know this better than anyone, it's a long game,
Very long.
right? It's a long game. So it's one of the tools to elevate your brand and to get awareness, but it's not a magic bullet, I would say. And especially for retail, I think you're playing a different game when you're in store. But I do think, it's having some PR and press about your products and having someone other than yourself advocating for you in that way, it's a positive. It's not a guarantee that you're going to get in with that, but I think it definitely adds more to your story.
And to your authority as a brand.
Yes, yes, because someone else has tested it. Someone else has said something what they like about it, what they don't like about it, and so those, I think retailers do look at that.
One more last question before we go, because a lot of brands are opting to have rewards plans and systems. What
Hmm.
do you think about those?
I think it depends on the brand because we, that's another system that you have to manage, that you have to set up, that also costs money. Is your product honestly a brand that's going to be repurchased,
Yeah,
right?
it's all
Because
about building loyalty.
yes, because there are brands, and I don't think, you don't have to get a customer at a retailer to buy your product like once a month, even once a quarter, right? Because there's a lot of experimenters, and you can build a great business with experimenters.
Hmm.
But if you go that rewards route, you're kind of saying, oh, I think that based on, I think that my customer is going to continue to buy from me, and giving rewards is like a loyalty play. And I'm not sure if that's right for every brand,
No, it's
right?
not. You need to use the data to me. We do this for our clients to create all the rewards programs and email marketing, which again is a lot of work, but
Mm-hmm.
and it costs money. But you
Yeah.
need to see the lifetime, how many times people are use your data and see if
Yeah.
people are recurrent buyers or not.
Yeah. I mean, Laura, like how many products do you think you regularly repurchase?
Oh, I have a few that I am very loyal to.
I think I have like six, right?
Yeah,
I have like six products and brands that I'll like keep going back to. But
yeah.
then other things, I'm constantly buying new things.
Because you didn't find the one that you love until
Yes.
you find it. Last question, I promise. I know that we're running out. Subscription boxes. How do you
Hmm.
feel about all these subscription boxes for beauty products? Again, for the founders out there, subscription boxes, it's an
Hmm.
investment for a brand.
Yes, it is. I love subscription boxes. I think they're a great discovery channel. We work with all of them. I subscribe to all of them. I think it's a way for someone to come to me passively and say, "Hey, here are some new cool things that you might like." And I think it's a great way. Like, I really believe in sampling. If you believe in your product, you should want to get it into the hands of potential customers. And so I think it's a plus, but I know that yeah, the economics can be a bit tough,
Yeah.
but I think if you
Uh,
can
It's
afford it,
it's a long game.
mhm,
Subscription boxes is a long game. Someone who tried
yeah.
the subscription boxes, you know that people in the market of the subscription box sets, because probably they're not going to go immediately buy your product. But
Yeah.
what can happen is that in a few months or in a year, they're in a store and they see your product and say, oh, I used to like this one.
Yes, yes. No, and I think so we're really next year we're really pushing big into kits and to like travel sizes because that's also like a really great discovery channel. And I think not enough brands are creating trial sizes
Yeah.
where people can go in. We've done like some of our most successful retail partnerships with trial sizes and it converts customers into the full size.
That's incredible. And it's really good information for brands to have. Sarah, thank you so much for spending time with us and to be so generous with information.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This is long overdue. I wish we were like physically together with coffee.
Absolutely. We can do that soon. All
Yes.
right, guys. And to you, we'll see you next week with more coffee number 5. Find everything you need at laraschmoisman.com or in the episode notes right below. Don't forget to subscribe. It was so good to have you here today. See you next time. Catch you on the flip side. Ciao, ciao.